Berlin wasn't just a city during the Cold War, it was the stage for one of history's longest high-stakes games. Imagine a place split right down the middle, where one wrong move could change everything. Sounds like a movie, right? Well, it was, again and again. From dark alleys to tense checkpoint standoffs, filmmakers turned Berlin into the ultimate pressure cooker. Which thrillers captured the paranoia best? Let's dive in, but brace yourself, the tension here never lets go. The Spy Who Came In from the Cold, 1965. If you want to understand the Cold War on screen, start here. Richard Burton delivers one of the most cynical spy performances ever put to film, playing Alec Leamas, a British operative worn down by lies, double games, and the futility of it all. Berlin is not just the backdrop, it's the trap. The wall looms like a concrete character, and every scene feels like it's suffocating under its shadow. Unlike the glamorous spy stories Hollywood loved to churn out, this one strips away the fantasy. There are no slick gadgets, no charming disguises, just raw, bleak reality. Burton's Leamas is a man crushed by the grind, sent into East Berlin on what looks like a mission of redemption. Instead, it's a descent into betrayal so sharp that even the audience feels gutted by the final twist. What makes it nail the tension is its refusal to give you release. You keep waiting for the big, aha escape moment, but instead, you get walls closing in, motives clashing, and a finale that redefines tragic. This isn't about winning or losing. It's about survival in a game where survival might not even be the point. The result? A masterpiece of mood and atmosphere. Every whispered conversation feels like it could be your last. Every eye across the bar could belong to someone reporting on you. It's not just a film, it's a cold plunge into the hopelessness of espionage. If you only see one Berlin thriller from this era, make it this one. It shows you what the Cold War really felt like: heavy, claustrophobic, and utterly unforgiving. Funeral in Berlin, 1966. Now let's shift gears to a spy who's just a little too smart for his own good. Enter Michael Caine as Harry Palmer, the working-class, sharp-eyed intelligence man who always seems one step away from cracking a joke or walking out on his bosses. In Funeral in Berlin, Palmer is sent across the wall to manage a supposed defection. What he finds is a web of tricks so tangled, you almost need a map to keep up. Where The Spy Who Came In from the Cold was all grim weight, Funeral in Berlin mixes its tension with dry wit and cool defiance. Palmer doesn't look or act like a polished spy. He's sardonic, skeptical, and constantly questioning orders. That makes him the perfect guide through Berlin, a city buzzing with double crosses, hidden deals, and people who would sell out their own side for the right offer. The film nails the atmosphere of a divided Berlin, cold streets, crowded checkpoints, and a constant sense that everyone is watching everyone else. What's brilliant is how the city itself becomes a puzzle box. Allies feel like enemies, enemies seem like allies, and at the center sits Palmer, trying to figure out who's actually playing him. Tension builds not through car chases or explosions, but through small, almost mundane details. A handshake, a folder passed across a desk, a smile that lasts just a beat too long. It's those tiny signals that make you sweat, because in this world, everything could mean something. By the time the film closes, you realize it's not about the action, it's about the uncertainty. Funeral in Berlin makes you feel like you're standing at the wall yourself, wondering which direction is safe, knowing deep down that none of them really are. The Quiller Memorandum, 1966. This one feels like a spy thriller dipped in acid. The Quiller Memorandum stars George Segal as a lone American agent poking around Berlin to uncover a neo-Nazi organization. Sounds straightforward, right? Wrong. Nothing in this movie is what it seems, and that's exactly why it grips you. What sets Quiller apart is its quiet menace. Instead of high-speed chases or daring escapes, the tension comes from simple conversations. A cup of coffee across a table becomes nerve-wracking. A walk through an empty Berlin street feels like a trap about to spring. Max von Sydow, playing the icy leader of the group, delivers his lines with such unnerving calm that you start to wonder if he already knows how the whole game ends. The film is drenched in that mid-60 seconds paranoia where trust simply doesn't exist. Quiller himself isn't a superhero spy. He's just a man trying to stay upright while everyone around him seems to know more than he does. You feel his isolation, his suspicion, his slow realization that maybe he's in way over his head. And let's talk about the city itself. Berlin here is cold, gray, and wide open, yet somehow suffocating. Every street corner feels like an ambush waiting to happen. The wall between east and west looms in the background, reminding you that one wrong turn could mean disappearing forever. By the end, the Quiller Memorandum doesn't give you neat answers or clean victories. It leaves you unsettled, almost dizzy, the way a real Cold War agent must have felt walking out of a meeting, unsure if they were alive because of luck, skill, or because they'd just been played. That's tension nailed perfectly. Torn Curtain 1966. Alfred Hitchcock knew how to make your palms sweat, and Torn Curtain is one of his most underappreciated thrillers. With Paul Newman and Julie Andrews in the lead roles, it takes you deep into East Germany, where a supposed defection quickly turns into a desperate fight to escape. The film's most famous scene doesn't involve explosions or gunfire. It's a kitchen struggle where Newman's character fights to silence an East German operative. Hitchcock deliberately shows how messy, exhausting, and painfully slow a real confrontation would be. There's no glamour here, just raw survival. You can feel every scrape, every gasp, every second ticking by. What makes Torn Curtain so gripping is how it mixes romance with danger. Newman's scientist is pretending to defect, but Andrews, playing his fiancée, follows him without knowing the full truth. Suddenly, the stakes aren't just professional, they're personal. Can she trust him? Can he keep her safe? Will they even make it out alive? Berlin itself is presented as a place of watchful eyes and locked doors. Every train ride, every checkpoint, every glance from a stranger feels like it could mean disaster. Hitchcock uses silence brilliantly. There are moments where nothing is said, but the weight of what could happen hangs so heavy that you almost want to look away. By the time the couple makes their daring run toward freedom, your nerves are shot. Torn Curtain may not be Hitchcock's most famous spy thriller, but it captures the suffocating pressure of living and trying to escape behind the Iron Curtain. It's a reminder that in Cold War Berlin, even love stories had to fight to survive. The Looking-Glass War 1970. John Le Carré's novels were never about glamorous agents. They were about flawed people in impossible situations. The Looking-Glass War captures that spirit with brutal honesty. This is a story about sending the wrong man into East Berlin and watching the fallout unfold. Spoiler, it doesn't go well. The main character, a rookie sent across the border, isn't James Bond. He's unpolished, untested, and frankly unprepared. And that's the point. The film strips away the illusion that spy work is about gadgets and quick thinking. Instead, it shows just how dangerous it was to send someone unready into a world where one mistake meant disappearing forever. The tension here isn't slick, it's tragic. You watch as hope slowly drains out of the mission. Radio silence stretches too long. Promises made in briefing rooms don't hold up in real life. You can almost feel the fear eating away at the rookie as he realizes the people who sent him may have already written him off. Berlin once again plays the role of a living trap. The wall, the checkpoints, the streets crawling with watchers. It's a maze built to crush anyone who doesn't belong. And our rookie, tragically, doesn't. The Looking-Glass War nails the tension by showing you failure in slow motion. You're not on the edge of your seat, waiting for a clever escape. You're holding your breath, knowing the outcome might already be sealed. It's haunting, sobering, and painfully realistic. And in many ways, that's what makes it one of the most powerful Berlin thrillers of its time. The Odessa File, 1974. When it comes to Berlin thrillers, The Odessa File isn't your typical spy versus spy drama. Instead, it mixes Cold War paranoia with the chilling hunt for a hidden past. Jon Voight plays a young journalist who stumbles onto a diary that exposes a shadowy group of ex-Nazis operating in secret. Their aim? To rebuild old networks right under the noses of divided Germany. The real tension here doesn't just come from espionage. It comes from the question of how much of the past still lurked behind closed doors in 1972 Berlin. The city was already scarred by the wall, by the constant eyes of the Cold War. Add to that the idea that old loyalties and dark secrets still thrived, and suddenly Berlin feels like a ticking time bomb. Voight's character gets pulled deeper and deeper, moving from journalist to reluctant investigator. Every lead drags him into darker territory. Friends become suspects. Strangers turn into threats. And the more he digs, the more dangerous it becomes. Unlike the sharp efficiency of professional agents, Here we watch an ordinary man wading into waters far too deep. The Odessa File thrives on its mood. Streets feel too quiet. Meetings in dim apartments feel like they're about to explode into chaos. And Berlin itself becomes a place of ghosts, the ruins of the past colliding with the fears of the Cold War present. By the end, you're left with a thriller that feels bigger than one chase or one plot. It's about history refusing to stay buried, about Berlin as the crossroads where yesterday's horrors and today's paranoia collide. And it nails that unease in a way few thrillers ever dared. The Little Drummer Girl 1984. Here's a Berlin thriller that plays with layers of identity like a magician shuffling cards. Adapted from John le Carré's novel, The Little Drummer Girl follows Diane Keaton as an actress recruited into a world of espionage, manipulation, and psychological games that blur every line of loyalty. Unlike other spy films where the leads are hardened professionals, this one throws an outsider into the mix. Keaton's character is drawn into the web not because she's trained for it, but because her skills as a performer make her useful. That twist changes everything. Suddenly, you're watching someone use stage instincts and emotional depth to survive a very real, very dangerous game. Berlin, of course, plays its role perfectly. The wall, the shadowed alleys, the secret handoffs, it's all here. But the film leans into the psychological tension more than the physical. The real danger isn't just being caught. It's losing your grip on who you are while pretending to be someone else. The movie builds its suspense like a play within a play. Each act draws the protagonist, and us, deeper into uncertainty. Friendships become blurred, motivations twist until they're unrecognizable, and every time you think you understand the game, the rules shift. What makes it nail the tension is that constant feeling of not knowing what's real. It's one thing to watch spies chase each other through dark alleys. It's another to watch someone question the sense of self while stuck in Berlin, the world's most divided city. The Little Drummer Girl proves that sometimes the most dangerous battles are the ones happening inside. The Fourth Protocol 1987. By the late 80s, Cold War thrillers had to raise the stakes, and the Fourth Protocol does just that with icy precision. Michael Caine, back again as a seasoned British agent, teams up with Pierce Brosnan, playing a Soviet operative whose mission in Europe puts Berlin right in the spotlight. This isn't a film about flashy action. It's about meticulous plotting, patience, and the ever-present fear that one small slip could unravel everything. Brosnan's character embodies that cool, calculating intensity that makes you nervous, even when he's doing something as simple as walking through a crowd. Opposite him, Caine is world-weary, sharp-eyed, and always questioning the motives of those around him. Berlin here is painted as a chessboard where every piece has a purpose. Apartments, train stations, and even quiet neighborhoods hum with suspicion. The wall looms as a silent reminder of the stakes, cutting the city into pieces while the players move across it in shadows. What makes the tension stick is how methodical it feels. The film doesn't rush. It takes its time showing how plans are built, how details matter, and how patience can be as deadly as any direct confrontation. You find yourself leaning forward, waiting for the inevitable moment when the wires cross and everything comes crashing down. The Fourth Protocol proves that Cold War Berlin wasn't just about sudden bursts of danger. It was about the long, quiet stretches of dread where you knew something was coming, you just didn't know when or how. That slow burn suspense is what makes this one nail the paranoia of the era. The Russia House, 1990. By 1990, the Cold War was gasping its last breath, but the Russia House proves the tension was still very much alive, especially in Berlin. Adapted from John le Carré's novel. The film stars Sean Connery as Barley, a British publisher unexpectedly drawn into the intelligence world, and Michelle Pfeiffer as Katya, the Russian woman whose courage sets the entire story in motion. Unlike the slick spy fantasies of the era, the Russia House is slow, thoughtful, and deeply human. It's not about quick escapes or fiery showdowns. It's about secrets that could change the balance of power and the cost of trying to reveal them. Connery, far from the polished James Bond image, plays Barley as world-weary, rumpled, and skeptical. That makes him believable and in some ways more dangerous because he's not trying to impress anyone. Berlin here acts as a crossroads between East and West, a city humming with uncertainty. Meetings feel clandestine even in daylight. Handshakes could carry hidden consequences. Every interaction is layered with the knowledge that the wall still divides not just geography, but human lives. What makes this film nail the tension is its refusal to give you easy thrills. Instead, it focuses on the impossible choices. Who can you trust? What's worth risking? And when you're caught between love and duty, which one wins? The Russia House doesn't just dramatize the end of an era, it embodies it. Watching it feels like eavesdropping on the Cold War's final act, with Berlin standing as both backdrop and symbol. Night Crossing, 1982. If you ever wanted proof that truth can be stranger and more nerve-wracking than fiction, look no further than Night Crossing. This Disney-produced thriller tells the true story of two East German families who built a hot air balloon in secret to escape over the Berlin Wall. Yes, a balloon. And the fact that it really happened makes the movie's tension skyrocket. Imagine sewing together scraps of fabric, piecing together a basket, and sneaking out under cover of darkness, all while the most heavily guarded border in the world loomed just miles away. One false move, one curious neighbor, and everything could be over. The film captures the raw fear and hope of ordinary people risking everything for freedom. Unlike professional spies or seasoned agents, the families are just regular folks, parents trying to give their kids a better life. That makes every scene ache with suspense. When they test the balloon in quiet fields, you hold your breath. When they finally take flight, you feel your stomach drop with them. Berlin is the silent antagonist here. The wall represents not just division, but the immense risk of failure. You're constantly aware of the stakes, even in moments of quiet preparation. And when the balloon rises, the entire city seems to fade into the background, leaving only the desperate gamble of escape. Night Crossing nails the tension by proving that thrillers don't need glamorous spies. Sometimes, the most gripping stories come from ordinary people facing impossible odds. Bridge of Spies, 2015. Although made decades later, Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies deserves its place on this list for how perfectly it recreates Cold War Berlin. Tom Hanks plays James Donovan, an American lawyer suddenly thrust into high-stakes negotiations for a prisoner exchange. It's not about shootouts or daring escapes. It's about conversations that carry the weight of nations. Berlin in this film is icy, bleak, and divided down to the bone. Checkpoint Charlie isn't just a location. It's a stage where global politics and human lives collide. The Glienicke Bridge, where prisoners were exchanged, becomes the film's central symbol, a literal line between freedom and captivity. Hanks brings his trademark steadiness to Donovan, a man who isn't a spy, but finds himself in the middle of spy games. That makes the film's suspense unique. You're not watching a trained operative glide through danger. You're watching a regular man rely on guts, wits, and sheer stubbornness to outmaneuver professional manipulators. A brilliance of Bridge of Spies is how it wrings tension out of silence. A pause in a conversation, a look across a table, a handshake that might mean betrayal. Spielberg builds suspense not with explosions, but with stillness, making you lean in closer with every passing second. By the time the climactic exchange happens on the frozen bridge, you realize the film has recreated exactly what Cold War Berlin was all about. Uncertainty, mistrust, and the knowledge that even small gestures could ripple across the world. The Man Between, 1953. Before the Berlin Wall even went up, Carol Reed's The Man Between painted the city as a fractured, uneasy place where trust was a rare commodity. Starring James Mason, this thriller is often considered a spiritual cousin to Reed's earlier masterpiece, The Third Man. Instead of post-war Vienna, we're dropped into Berlin, still reeling, still divided, and already simmering with the paranoia that would define the Cold War years. The film follows a young Englishwoman visiting family in Berlin, only to be pulled into a shadowy web of secrets and betrayals. James Mason's character, Ivo Kern, is the perfect Cold War figure, charming on the surface, but weighed down by moral compromises and shifting loyalties. Every decision he makes feels like it's happening on a knife's edge. What makes The Man Between nail the tension is its sense of atmosphere. Berlin isn't just a backdrop, it's a scarred, haunted city. Bombed-out buildings still stand, shadows cut across the streets, and every border crossing feels like a gamble with fate. Reed's direction leans into the unease, giving us lingering shots that make you question what's lurking just out of frame. This film doesn't lean on action set pieces or flashy tricks. Instead, it thrives on suspicion, whispers, and the constant fear that nothing is what it seems. Watching it today, you realize it predicted much of the tension that Cold War Berlin thrillers would later perfect. It's moody, it's haunting, and it proves that sometimes the quietest thrillers can be the ones that stay with you longest. Berlin wasn't just a city during the Cold War, it was a character, a stage, and sometimes even the villain itself. From balloon escapes to bleak betrayals, these films prove one thing. The wall may have fallen, but the tension it created still grips us through cinema. Which of these thrillers shook you the most? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten classics, and share this with someone who loves edge-of-your-seat stories. After all, who doesn't like a good Berlin chill?